The fun thing about college football now, and at some points difficult being a sports bettor, is the transfer portal and how different rosters are going to look and how some of the more notable quarterbacks and like names that we recognize are in different places now. And we wanted to take a look at some college football quarterbacks who are getting some fresh starts for various reasons. Maybe, they've been in college for 20 years and are a grad transfer somewhere looking for a bigger platform, better program, better fit. Maybe like Sheryl Crow, a change will do you good. They just need a little bit of a different environment. But of these,
is that the lyric?
Of these, yeah. I think
that whole
change would do you good, right?
I don't know.
Isn't that the song?
I'm sure it's a song. I just don't know.
I know that the radio is a place for music, but not coming from these pipes over here. But of some of these quarterbacks who are in newfound locations this year, who's one you think can make the biggest impact in 2023?
I mean, it's hard, I think, for me personally not to start with DJU. I think Uiagalelei can find himself in a position where, like, look, Oregon State was awesome last year. They were the best ATS team in the country. They play a really sound brand of football. It's one that he even cited in terms of wanting to play in it, a little bit more of a pro-style offense where he broke the huddle, took snaps from under center, play action, all sorts of stuff. And I think that, like you said, what Miss Crow said, which is a change will do you good. We see it all the time, but we have many different examples of it. The biggest one, as of the last few years, of course, Justin Verlander, when he leaves Detroit, goes to Houston, we know how that went. And I think that like something like this too, DJ Uiagalelei, I think still has a lot of talent. I wasn't a really big fan of Clemson's offense over the last few years. That was really simple. I didn't really think that there was a lot of nuance to it. I think if you look at their coaching staff overall and realizing that it's a bunch of dudes at Clemson who were just come up from Clemson, like they're Clemson guys, not really high-level assistants on that offensive side, I think it kind of spoke to simplicity of it. DJ Uiagalelei can be a very talented quarterback. We saw it at times. And if you look at some of the numbers from him last year, if you're talking about like big-time throws, he had quite a few of those, especially at the beginning portion of the season where he's pressing the ball downfield. He had a lot of accuracy. His adjusted accuracy at the beginning of the year was very good. It kind of slipped off as it went along. And I think it doesn't help when you have kind of that thing behind you. He even told a story where, he thought he led a really good drive, comes out, and Dabo gets pissed, pulls him, throws why can't I think of his name? I'll remember it. But their current quarterback now out there. And I think that's something where if you're in an environment where you feel a little bit more comfortable with your role, that's going to be something that's going to help you out a lot. So I find it hard not to really like what DJU is going to be there because he's also not going to have to do that much with that running attack in that offense.
Cade Klubnik, I think the name that you're looking for. But
Klubnik, whatever his name is, yes.
But with DJ Uiagalelei, obviously, to your point about even just interactions like that with Dabo, you're going to have a very, very different level of pressure in a place like Corvallis, Oregon, playing in the Pac-12 than you are as a Clemson Tiger, and a player who came into that program anointed as another like second coming of their quarterbacks of the future with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson and all these marquee players. What I like about Oregon State in general is I think that they're a team that's been on the up and up the last couple of years. They get that winning season, like coming off of 2020, they get that winning 7-5 season. Then they improved to 9-3. The lasting impression that you have of this Oregon State team from a year ago is, winning 7 of their last 8 games and then dominating an Anthony Richardson-less Florida team in the Las Vegas Bowl here. So they bring back the majority of their team. They have an extremely talented running back who's going to help, move that offense along as well. And Damian Martinez, he was the Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year last year. And Jonathan Smith, who's the head coach at Oregon State, is kind of like, he's a former quarterback, obviously, but he is somebody who really, really cares about the program. He cares about his players. He's kind of a quarterback whisperer of types. And so I hope nothing but good things for DJ Uiagalelei. 8.5 the win total. Any immediate thoughts on that number? Because I feel like they're poised for another successful year.
I would say
the Pac-12 is hard. Pac-12 is going to Pac-12. They beat up on themselves all the time.
They are. And the big difference, too, now is with Oregon State, like, we see them coming, essentially. Like, you see a team that has been there, that has delivered at the window for a lot of people, that now brings in a big-name transfer in DJ Uiagalelei, who actually, by the way, we should note, might not even win the job. Like, he is in competition for this. He did transfer in, but it's not going to be given to him. Ben Gilbranson is still there, that you're going to still have to do something.
I think he should win the job, though.
You think so?
Yes.
You're saying he should as in you better, or he should as in like he's going to be better than Gulbranson.
He's going to be better than Gulbranson.
All right, just want to throw it out there. Nothing's
all right.
You know,
No,
nothing's set
that's
in
my
stone.
personal opinion, having watched them both.
Yes, well, and because you're right, because one of the things too that's going to offer DJU is going to offer that Gulbranson doesn't, big arm downfield. Like that's something that was kind of missing from this Oregon State offense. So I would say, look, because you mentioned it, Pac-12 with the way it's played now too, you're going to play a lot of tough opponents. You're not getting out from any. You're not going to surprise anybody, but they're so well coached. And if DJU is actually going to raise the floor of them in terms of quarterback play, I still think that this could definitely be a team that is going to be reckoned with as we start to look at to next year.
And Trent Bray's done a great job as defensive coordinator as well since he got promoted internally. So that's like another thing that's just going to help out your quarterback if your defense is playing well. And it's interesting when you look at those Pac-12 win totals, the teams at the top, all with those 9.5s, are teams that had major college football transfers come into their programs last year. Washington with Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix at Oregon, and of course the reigning Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams as a USC Trojan.
And we should also know too, Oregon State's schedule is pretty manageable. When you're talking about your road games in conference being Washington State, Cal, Arizona, Colorado, and then Oregon at the end of the year. And then home games, you're playing Utah and near the start of conference play. But after that, we're talking about UCLA, Stanford, and then a tough one against Washington with a really manageable non-conference schedule, 2 Mountain West teams, San Jose State and...
Sorry, what?
San Diego State.
San Diego State University.
You get them at home, so that's that's going to be an interesting matchup too, because that'll be a very tightly fought contest. But regardless, it's a manageable schedule at that for Oregon State as well.
I love SDSU, but I just never have any confidence in them. It's just one of those.
I can't do this with you.
Sorry, I'm just saying. Okay, how about where do you want to go next?
Tough. It's just so tough finishing second in the Mountain West year after year.
Sam Hartman, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Sam Hartman now with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You got Brendan Armstrong who heads to NC State after a major down year at Virginia, but we know the high highs that he's been able to have. Devin Leary goes from NC State to Kentucky with Will Levis out of the building, Hudson Card at Purdue. Which one do you want to attack next?
I think it's hard not to start with Hartman, right? I mean, only because Sam Hartman comes in, and it's going to be really fascinating to watch what this offense is going to look like for him, because you could make the argument that Hartman, when you're playing at Wake Forest, is like an offense that really helps a quarterback with that slow mesh style. And so what you're talking about now, you're going to be a little bit more in a pro-style offense. You're going to have a lot more on your shoulders. How the insane production of Sam Hartman, you look at these last few years, 89.4 PFF passing grade last season, 38 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 39-14 the year before, PFF passing grade of 90.5. One could make the argument, though, that a lot of the production from Hartman was due to the offense that he's in. And now when you have a lot more on your shoulders, if you're talking about going to Notre Dame, and a little bit more in terms of expectation, I think that's there too, right? Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman probably not on the hot seat, but you want to stretch out the collar a little bit here and say, okay, let's get a little bit more in terms of some of the results now. I think this is going to be a pretty fascinating scenario for Hartman, because all of these things come together. You see the win total of 9. I'm fascinated to see what Hartman brings to the table for Notre Dame, because I think this could really work, but there's also the universe in which doesn't really mesh with the pro-style offense, and all of a sudden you're looking at just a really basic offense once again. He
was one of those things coming out of the spring games back in April that, like, very, very complimentary. People talking about Sam Hartman. He was 13-16, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and it was like, Sam Hartman, this offense is going to be off the hook with this guy. And, like, maybe temper the expectations a little bit, but at the end of the day, it is still Notre Dame. Yep. And there are expectations that come with that. Another year under Marcus Freeman. But similar to kind of what I said about DJ Uiagalelei and the pieces that they have around him, they're going to have a good ground game. You know that they're going to have a good defense, all things that are really going to help out your quarterback. And I'm a Sam Hartman fan, maybe not to the extent, though, that he is 4th on the list to win the Heisman this year. That threw me for a little bit of a loop.
I mean, that's the helmet, right? That's the Golden Dome. That's playing for Notre Dame. Like, that's exactly
maybe
why.
That should be comfortable for him, though, because he had a gold helmet at Wake as well. So
hey, that's a good, And also, I think, too, like, contributing maybe to the struggles here, I think you have some questions about, just who's catching these balls for. Hartman, obviously, we know Michael Mayer, leading receiver last year, but he's going to be in the National Football League. Lorenzo Styles Jr. was the leading returning receiver, who only had, I think, 30 catches for 340 last year. So that's going to be something, too, is why I'm fascinated by this. It's a little bit of a different system, a little bit of a question to pass catcher, and a team that does have some expectations. I'd be very curious to see what this is going to look like for Hartman and the Fighting Irish.
Season win total for Notre Dame sitting at 9, a little bit of juice there to the under. But as far as those Heisman odds go, Caleb Williams 5-1 to repeat your favorite. Florida State's Jordan Travis 10-1. Drake May at UNC 12-1, and Sam Hartman right there 13-1.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.